You know, every living thing, from us to the tiniest plant in a pot, has this incredible built-in command center. It's how they react, how they adapt, and really how they survive. So today, we're going to dive into that amazing internal system, the world of control and coordination.
Okay, let's start with something you've definitely experienced. Imagine you accidentally touch a blazing hot pan. You pull your hand back in a split second, right? It happens way before your brain even gets the memo to say, hey, that hurts. So how does that even work? That lightning-fast, totally unconscious reaction is the perfect place to start.
So here's the game plan for today. We'll kick things off with why these control systems are so vital for, well, all life. Then we'll look at the two systems animals use, the super-fast nervous system and the slower hormone network. After that, we're going to switch gears and see how plants manage everything using just chemical signals. And we'll wrap up by looking at how plants can actually move.
First up, the ultimate control systems. And look, the main idea here is actually pretty simple, but it's also incredibly deep. To stay alive, every single organism has to be able to sense and respond to changes in its environment. Control and coordination, those are just the names for the processes that make all of that constant adjustment possible.
What's really fascinating is how different life forms get this done. Animals, well, they've got this two-part strategy, a high-speed nervous system for those instant reactions and a slower endocrine system for more long-term stuff. Plants, on the other hand, are masters of a totally chemical approach. They use hormones for pretty much everything.
Okay, so let's jump into the animal kingdom and start with their biological high-speed internet, the nervous system. Seriously, you can think of it like a fiber optic network that allows for instant communication across the entire body. It's all about speed.
And the basic building block of this whole network? It's the neuron. These are the specialized cells, the actual wires, that transmit nerve impulses at incredible speeds. Everything from a deep thought to a simple twitch starts right here, with these guys.
So how does a signal actually move through one of these neurons? Well, it's a one-way street, no exceptions. The signal comes in through these little branches called dendrites, it gets processed in the main cell body, then it shoots down this long cable called the axon, and finally gets passed to the next neuron at the axon terminal. Simple, elegant, and unbelievably fast. Now, if you're trying to keep all those parts straight, I've got a fun and, okay, maybe a little weird way for you to remember this. Just think of the phrase, don't always call an ambulance. Now, the letters don't line up perfectly, but it's dramatic enough that it might just help you remember the key players. Dendrite, axon, cell body, and axon terminal. Hey, whatever works, right?
Let's go back to that hot stove. That whole reaction is possible because of a neural shortcut called the reflex arc. The heat is the stimulus, which is picked up by a receptor in your skin. A sensory neuron zips that message straight to your spinal cord, which, and this is the cool part, doesn't even bother the brain. It immediately sends a command back out through a motor neuron telling your muscle to pull away. It's a brilliant survival mechanism that cuts out the middleman for pure speed.
Okay, so that was the high-speed network. Now let's talk about the body's other communication system, the hormone network. If the nervous system is like sending a text message, instant and direct, then the endocrine system is more like the body's postal service. It's a bit slower, but its messages can get delivered to every single address in the body. So, what exactly are hormones? Well, they're chemical messengers. They're produced by special glands, and they travel through your bloodstream to find their target cells somewhere else in the body. They're in charge of all the bigger, longer-term projects, things like growth, metabolism, your mood, and how you handle stress.
Let's meet the major players in this system. You've got the pituitary gland, kind of like the master controller, the thyroid, which manages your body's energy levels, the pancreas helps regulate blood sugar with insulin, and the adrenal glands pump out adrenaline for that classic fight-or-flight response. Then, of course, you have the testes and ovaries managing sexual development.
And yeah, you guessed it, we've got another little trick to help you remember these key glands: the pituitary, thyroid, pancreas, adrenal, testes, and ovaries. Just lock this sentence in your head. Please tell people about the organizations. All right, let's totally switch gears and head over to the plant kingdom. This is where it gets really interesting. How in the world do they coordinate everything from growing taller to fighting off pests without a brain or any nerves? The answer is amazing. It's all done through these really sophisticated chemical conversations. Plants basically rely on 5 main groups of hormones. You can think of them as a team of chemical managers: auxins, gibberellins, cytokinins, abscisic acid, and ethylene. Each one has a very specific job, and working together, they orchestrate a plant's entire life from the moment it sprouts to when it gets old. And I know you were waiting for it. We've got a mnemonic for this one too. To remember those 5 plant hormones, auxins, gibberellins, cytokinins, abscisic acid, and ethylene, just think of this very true phrase. All great cats are elegant.
Let's look at a really cool example, how fruit gets ripe. This whole process is managed by a hormone called ethylene, which is actually a gas. The plant produces a little ethylene, and that starts the ripening process. But what's really wild is that as a fruit ripens, it produces even more ethylene, which then signals all the nearby fruit to start ripening too. This is literally where the saying, "one bad apple spoils the bunch," comes from.
Now, for what I think is one of the most amazing topics, how plants move. I mean, they can't get up and run away from a threat or walk over to a sunny spot. But trust me, they are constantly moving and responding to the world around them in very specific, deliberate ways.
Plant movements pretty much fall into 2 main camps. First, you've got tropic movements. These are directional. The plant is moving either towards or away from something. The classic example is a houseplant bending towards the sunlight from a window. Then you have nastic movements, which are non-directional. Think of a flower closing up at night. It's not moving away from anything in particular, it's just a general response to the change in light.
And these directional movements are incredibly cool and diverse. When plants bend toward light, that's phototropism. They can sense gravity, telling roots to grow down and stems to grow up. That's geotropism. They can seek out water through hydrotropism. And get this, they can even respond to touch, like a vine wrapping itself around a fence post. That's called thigmotropism.
So as we start to wrap this all up, it really boils down to this one big idea. Different strategies, same goal. And that goal, of course, is survival. Whether we're talking about the blistering speed of a nerve impulse in your arm or the slow, steady growth of a plant root towards water, it's all part of an unbelievably intricate system designed to keep life going.
And this shows you the universal logic that's underneath it all. It doesn't matter what the organism is, the pathway is basically the same. There's a stimulus, it's detected by a receptor. A control system, be it nerves or hormones, processes it and sends a signal. That signal reaches an effector, which then carries out the final response. From a person to a plant, that fundamental logic is always there.
So here's the most important takeaway. Control and coordination, they aren't just fancy features for complex animals. They are a universal, absolute necessity for all life. It's a fundamental principle that connects every single one of us to the trees outside and every other living thing on this planet.
So I'll leave you with this to chew on. If plants can actively sense and respond to light, gravity, water, chemicals, even touch, does that mean they're more aware of the world around them than we usually give them credit for? Something to think about. Thanks so much for tuning in.